her hair scattered. Falling tears melted the equilibrium, meaning like cudgel, the coloring of her eyes, on her eyes, and moistened her breasts, which were covered with kumkuma powder, as she lamented the loss of her son. Her loud crying resembled the sweet sound of a kurari bird. Text 54. Alas, O Providence, O Creator, you are certainly inexperienced in creation, for during the lifetime of a father, you have caused the death of his son, thus acting in opposition to your creative laws. If you are determined to contradict these laws, you are certainly the enemy of living entities and are never merciful. In other words, it's not very good that the son dies before the father. It means there's something wrong. Purport. This is the way a conditioned soul condemns the Supreme Creator when he meets reverses. Sometimes he accuses the Supreme Personality of Godhead of being crooked because some people are happy and some are not. Here, the Queen blames Supreme Providence for her son's death. Following the created laws, a father should die first and then his son. If the created laws are changed according to the whims of Providence, then Providence certainly should not be considered merciful, but must be considered inimical to the created being. Actually, it is not the creator, but the conditioned soul who is inexperienced. He does not know how the subtle laws of fruitive activity work, and without knowledge of these laws of nature, he ignorantly criticizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when it says the Queen blamed the Supreme Providence for her son's death, that's actually criticizing God. Okay, text 55. My Lord, you may say that there is no law that a father must die in the lifetime of his son, and that a son must be born in the lifetime of his father. Since everyone lives and dies according to his own fruitive activity, however, if fruitive activity is so strong that birth and death depend upon it, there is no need of a controller or God. Again, if you say that a controller is needed because the material energy does not have the power to act, one may answer that if the bonds of affection you have created are disturbed by fruitive action, no one will raise children with affection. Instead, everyone will cruelly neglect his children. Since you have cut the bonds of affection that compel a parent to raise his child, you appear inexperienced and unintelligent. Oh boy.
Mhm.
Okay. That's a really it's a person who is ignorant of laws of karma. But they don't see how things are actually happening. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. As stated in Brahma Samhita, Karmani Nirdhati Kintu Bhakti Bhajam. One who has taken to Krishna consciousness, devotional service, is not affected by the results of karma. In this verse, karma has been stressed on the basis of karma mimamsa philosophy, which says that one must act according to his karma and that a supreme controller must give the results of karma. The subtle laws of karma, which are controlled by the supreme, cannot be understood by ordinary conditioned souls. Therefore, Krishna says that one who can understand him, meaning Krishna, and how he is acting, controlling everything by subtle laws, immediately becomes freed by his grace. That is the statement of Brahma Samhita. Karmani nirdhati kintu bhakti bhajam. One should take to his devotional service without reservations and surrender everything to the supreme will of the Lord. That will make one happy in this life and the next. Okay, so that's good advice. That means that if we are upset because we don't experience what we want in mundane life, that is not the fault of God. That's our own fault. And we can't blame God. Everybody has different karmas or different karma based on their activities and desires. So if, therefore it says here, that's why it says here, in this verse, karma has been stressed on the basis of karma mimamsa philosophy, which says that one must act according to his karma and that a supreme controller must give the results of karma. That is not absolutely necessary. Anyway, let's see what else it says. The subtle laws of karma, which are controlled by the supreme, cannot be understood by ordinary conditioned souls. See, therefore Krishna says that one who can understand him, meaning Krishna, and how he is acting, controlling everything by subtle laws, immediately becomes freed by his grace. That is the statement of Brahma Samhita, Karmani Nirdhati Kintu Bhakti Bhajam. One should take to devotional service without reservations and surrender everything to the supreme will of the Lord. That will make one happy in this life and the next. Okay, so if someone is Krishna conscious, then he's not under the laws of karma. Why? Because he's completely dependent on Krishna, not on the laws of karma. That's difficult for some people to understand, but only a devotee can actually understand that. Therefore, the devotee is never disturbed, knowing very well that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. And whatever happens cannot happen haphazardly. It's always planned by Krishna himself. So therefore, one should be always surrendered to Krishna, and whatever happens, we can accept it as the will of the Lord. However, most people have expectations, and if they don't get their expectation, they get upset and they blame Krishna, or without knowing how the subtle laws of material nature are acting. Yeah. So that's why it says here that one who has taken to Krishna consciousness, devotional service, is not affected by the results of karma. In this verse, karma has been stressed on the basis of karma mimamsa philosophy, which says that one must act according to his karma and that a supreme controller must give the results of karma. The subtle laws of karma, which are controlled by the supreme, cannot be understood by ordinary conditioned souls. Therefore, Krishna says that one who can understand him and how he is acting, controlling everything by subtle laws, immediately becomes freed from his grace. That is the statement of Brahma Samhita. One should take to devotional service without reservations and surrender everything to the supreme will of the Lord. That will make one happy in this life and the next. Well, obviously, if you don't get what you want because you have material desires and you blame Krishna for that and walk away from Krishna consciousness, that is incorrect understanding. And that is like, rejecting the authority of Krishna. So you can't expect to be always, let's say, successful according to your principles. We have to act according to Krishna's will, not according to our principles or desires for eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, and having always material benefits. So this is difficult for some people to understand. They will pray to God, asking for different material benefits, and when they don't get it, they get upset and they reject God. That's because they don't understand how the material laws are acting. And they want everything to be subordinate to their mundane desires. That, of course, is impossible. Therefore, one has to accept the will of the Lord and not get angry when when a person doesn't get what they want. The materialists, they always want to get what they want. But the devotee always is satisfied with whatever Krishna's plan is. And he remains very steady in devotional service and does not get disturbed by the ups and downs of material life. That's why it says here, those subtle laws of karma, which are controlled by the Supreme, cannot be understood by ordinary conditioned souls. Therefore, Krishna says that one who can understand him and how he is acting, controlling everything by subtle laws, immediately becomes freed from his, meaning Krishna's grace. That is the statement of Brahma Samhita. Karmani nirdahati kintu cha bhakti bhajam. One should take to devotional service without reservations and surrender everything to the supreme will of the Lord, that will make one happy in this life and the next. Okay, well, this is good, very good advice. And it is uh, basically saying, look, you can't uh, guess or what Krishna wants. You have to accept whatever happens as the will of the Lord. That means that if we have material desires and we don't get them, then we become upset and think that God is not a nice person, etc. But that is the wrong understanding. The correct understanding is that whatever, that nothing can happen without the will of the Lord, and therefore one should not be disturbed when personal desires are not achieved. One must be always surrendered to the will of the Lord. There's nothing like accidents or, let's say, um, yeah, there's no accidents. Everything is controlled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nothing happens haphazard. It might look like that, but actually everything's under the control of Krishna. Therefore, the devotee is not disturbed by the ups and downs of the material world. He accepts it as the mercy of the Lord and continues in regulated devotional service. Therefore, it says, Karmani nirdahati kintucha bhakti bhajam. One should take to devotional service without reservations and surrender everything to the supreme will of the Lord. That will make one happy in this life and the next. Okay, so as long as we maintain our devotional service without any reservations, meaning without stopping, uh, and completely surrender everything to the supreme will of the Lord, that will make one happy in this life and the next. Text 56. My dear son, I am helpless and very much aggrieved. You should not give up my company. Just look at your lamenting father. We are helpless because without a son, we shall have to suffer the distress of going to the darkest hellish regions. You are the only hope by which we can get out of these dark regions. Therefore, I request you not to go any further with the merciless Yama. Purport. According to the Vedic injunctions, one must accept a wife just to beget a son who can deliver one from the clutches of Yamaraj. Unless one has a son to offer oblations to the Pitas or forefathers, one must suffer in Yamaraja's kingdom. King Chitraketu was very much aggrieved, thinking that because his son was going away with Yamaraja, he himself would again suffer. The subtle laws exist for the karmis. If one becomes a devotee, he has no more obligations to the laws of karma. Wow, that's a big statement. The subtle laws exist for the karmis. If one becomes a devotee, he has no more obligations to the laws of karma. Yeah, because he's completely surrendered to Krishna. And whatever happens, he accepts it. He accepts that as the mercy of Krishna, whether it's good or it's bad. But in that type of consciousness, Nothing is bad as far as the devotee is concerned, because everything is under the control of the Lord. And the Lord doesn't make any mistakes. We're the ones that make mistakes. Text 57. My dear son, you have slept a long time. Now please get up. Your playmates are calling you to play. Since you must be very hungry, please get up and suck my breast and dissipate our lamentation. Well, the son is dead. How's he going to get up? Text 58. My dear son, I am certainly most unfortunate, for I can no longer see your mild smiling. You have closed your eyes forever. I therefore conclude that you have been taken away from this planet to another, from which you will not return. My dear son, I can no longer hear your pleasing voice. Text 59. Sri Sukadeva Goswami continued, accompanied by his wife, who was thus lamenting for her dead son. King Chitraketu began crying loudly with an open mouth, being greatly aggrieved. Oh, that is not the right way to do things. But anyway, uh, as the king and queen lamented, all their male and female followers joined them in crying because of the sudden accident. All the citizens of the kingdom were almost unconscious. When the great sage Angira understood that the king was almost dead in an ocean of lamentation, he went there with Narada Rishi. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the sixth canto, 14th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled King Chitraketu's Lamentation. Well, we can always be sure that there are going to be ups and downs in the material world. And we can't always have things according to our desires, because we're all subordinate to the laws of the Lord. But one thing is sure, if we maintain our steady devotional service, then we will understand the will of the Lord and not be disturbed. Okay, now let's see what's going to happen here. Chapter 15. The saints, Narada and Angira, instruct King Chitraketu. Oh, dude, that means that we're going to hear the real truth now. In this chapter, Angira Rishi, along with Narada, console Chitraketu as far as possible. Angira and Narada Rishi came to relieve the king from excessive lamentation by instructing him about the spiritual significance of life. Okay, very nice. The great saints, Angira and Narada, explain that the relationship between father and son is not factual. It is simply a representation of the illusory energy. Oh, wow, that's a big statement. Very few people can understand that. The relationship did not exist before, nor will it stay in the future. By the arrangement of time, the relationship exists only in the present. One should not lament for temporary relationships. That's the fact. That's the main point. The entire cosmic manifestation is temporary. Although not unreal, that means it is real. It's a double negative. That means that it's actually real. I'm saying it is not factual. Okay, So it's real, but it's not factual. What does that mean? By the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, everything created in the material world is transient, meaning it comes and goes. It's not eternal. By a temporary arrangement, a father begets a child, or a living entity becomes the child of a so-called father. This temporary arrangement is made by the Supreme Board. Neither the Father nor the Son exists independently. Okay. As the king listened to the great sages, he was relieved from his false lamentation. And then he inquired about their identity. The great sages presented who they were and instructed that all sufferings are due to the bodily conception of life. When one understands his spiritual identity and surrenders to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Spiritual Person, one becomes actually happy. When one searches for happiness in matter, one must certainly lament for bodily relationships. Self realization means spiritual realization of one's relationship with Krishna. Such realization ends one's miserable material life. Okay, now this is a very important statement and a very important point that's being made here. In other words, uh, if let's say you have a you know a relative and that person dies, and you get upset, and you say, "Well, why did God take take this relative of mine away?" Uh, that means that the person who uh, makes that type of a statement does not understand the uh, the uh, the position that God has. God's decisions are absolute, and many misunderstandings can happen if we want to control God. But if we accept God's wisdom and God's, you know, uh, let's say, ultimate decisions, then we don't get disturbed. So that is the only way to maintain the equilibrium of a person. In other words, people want everything to be the way they want it to be. That means that they are not surrendered to Krishna. They want to have everything according to the way they want things to be. That is not going to happen. The Supreme Personality of God, it has this plan. Nothing is happening haphazardly. And everything that happens is orchestrated by the Lord. That's one thing that we have to understand and accept. Otherwise, we get completely flummoxed, confused when different things happen in life. There is a supreme controller of everything in this material world, and that supreme controller is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Whatever happens is not accidental. Everything is planned by the Lord. We have to have that conviction. Otherwise, we're going to unnecessarily lament or become exalted and so forth. There's going to be always ups and downs in the material world. And those things are not haphazardly done. They're planned. They're under the, let's say, not maybe not planned, but under the control of the Lord. If we don't have that conviction, we'll be always upset when there are upheavals, and we'll be falsely happy when there's a lot of success, material success. Okay, so we go on to the next one. Shri Sukadev Goswami said, while King Chitraketu, overcome by lamentation, lay like a dead body at the side of the dead body of his son. The two great sages, Narada and Angira, instructed him about spiritual consciousness. Now, you see, this is really important. I remember when my father died, and my mother, she like cried for like a month. You know, it was a pitiful thing, and I didn't understand. I didn't understand. I didn't understand what death was. I don't understand why my father died. Right? I mean, you can say, well, he got sick, he had cancer, and so forth. Yeah, but it was just confusing to me. Right? But I understood. But later on, when I became Krishna conscious, I understood nobody really dies. They just change the body. And if I had any, let's say, real, love for my father, then I should become Krishna conscious. And I don't have to pray, please, or ask anything from Krishna. My father's not dead. He just changed his body. And I should become a, really uh, uh, Krishna conscious son. And that way, uh, my father will be benefited. Now, if you get angry, you say, why did he take it? Why did Krishna take my father away? And get upset? That's ignorance. No one actually dies. And obviously, in the case of my father, well, he had very bad habits. He was a chain smoker, and he would, do a lot of things that were what you would call dangerous behaviors, like smoking continually and gambling and things like that. So, what do you expect? I mean, how much can the body take? It can't live that long if you're putting poisonous things in your body all the time and not living in a regulated way. My father was very unregulated, so and he suffered. I remember after he got cancer, and then we were having a family dinner on Sunday, and he just started crying because he knew he was suffering and he was going to die. But he brought it on to himself because he was a chain smoker. He was not regulated at all. And it was like, very sad. I mean, of course, I wasn't Krishna conscious at that time. But when I saw my father crying, I just got bewildered. I couldn't understand why. Well, because he realized that he was going to die because of his bad habits. If you're always taking intoxicants and not sleeping early, staying up all night, gambling, things like that. What do you expect? How long can the body, you know, uh, take that? Eventually, you get completely overwhelmed by not by contaminants. always, my father was a chain smoker. He would smoke uh, 4 packs of Chesterfield cigarettes a day and drink at least 15 uh, cups of coffee and stay up very, very late. And I mean, he was completely out of control. Okay, so therefore, by watching my father kill himself slowly with his bad habits, I, that made me really, I had a wake up call, and I stopped smoking, and I stopped, doing things that my father used to do. But I realized he was teaching me without knowing it to give up all bad habits.
Mm-hmm.
Haribol. Okay, text number 2. Okay, what relationship does the dead body for which lament have you lament have with you, and what relationship do you have with him? You may say that you are now related as father and son, but do you think this relationship existed before? Does it truly exist now? Will it continue in the future? Wow, these are really important questions. Purport. The instructions given by Narada and Angira Muni are the true spiritual instructions for the illusion conditioned soul. This is tremendous, wonderful wisdom. This world is temporary, but because of our previous karma, we come here and accept bodies, creating temporary relationships in terms of society, friendship, love, nationality, and community, which are all finished at death. These temporary relationships did not exist in the past, nor will they exist in the future. Therefore, at the present moment, the so called relationships are illusions. Wow. Tremendous. Prabhupada is so wonderful. He makes everything so clear. Text number 3. O king, as small particles of sand sometimes come together and are sometimes separated due to the force of the waves, the living entities who have accepted material bodies sometimes come together and are sometimes separated by the force of time. Yeah, that's a completely correct statement. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The misunderstanding of the conditioned soul is the bodily conception of life. The body is material, but within the body is the soul. This is spiritual understanding. Unfortunately, one who is in ignorance, under the spell of material illusion, accepts the body to be the self. He cannot understand that the body is matter. Like small particles of sand, bodies come together and are separated by the force of time. And people falsely lament for unification and separation. Unless one knows this, there is no question of happiness. Therefore, in Bhagavad Gita 2.13, this is the first instruction given by the Lord. Whoa. Dehinosmin yata dehe komaran yovanam jara tata dehantara praktir tiras tatra namuyate. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age. The soul similarly passes into another body at death. The self-realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. We are not the body. We are spiritual beings trapped in the body. Our real interest lies in understanding this simple fact. Then we can make further spiritual progress. Otherwise, if we remain in the bodily conception of life, our miserable material existence will continue forever. Oh my God. Political adjustments, social welfare work, medical assistance, and other programs we have manufactured for peace and happiness will never endure. In other words, they're temporary. We shall have to undergo the sufferings of material life, one after another. Therefore, material life is said to be dukkhalayam asasvatam. It is a reservoir of miserable conditions. That is the gospel truth. Prabhupada has nailed it right on the head. Okay, so then what is the right thing to do to become Krishna conscious? Follow the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness. Always keep chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. And understand that now we're under the mercy of Krishna. That is the best position to be in. Depend completely on the mercy of Krishna. Most people think that they can, but no one is in control. Everything's controlled by Krishna. So if you surrender to Krishna and not have any of these false ideas that I am the controller, etc., then you can have at least a peaceful life. But if you try and control things and have big expectations of success, and when you don't succeed, you become completely illusion. Then you get angry and you blame it all on God. All that is unnecessary and nonsense. We're not the controller. That's the first thing we have to learn. Krishna is the controller. And if we're surrendered to Krishna, Krishna says, Konteya pratijanihi name bhakta prashtiti. Declare it boldly, Arjuna, that my devotee will never perish. Well, that's what we should meditate on. Krishna's promise. Not the bogus nonsense ideas that, I can control things, I'm the controller. And if I don't get what I want, I'm going to blame it on God. It's all nonsense. So a devotee will accept whatever Krishna, does. But he understands that Krishna has a plan. So whether we're successful or we're not successful, it's part of Krishna's plan. So we should just wait but in the meantime, strictly follow the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness, and always follow the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness. That means that we're protected by the Lord. And the Lord says that also. He says, Konteya pratijani name bhakta pranashyati. Declare it boldly, Arjuna, that my devotee will never perish. So there's an absolute promise from Krishna. So we should focus on that promise as the baseline truth that we should accept. And we shouldn't have any doubt about it. Okay, so therefore he says, We shall have to undergo the sufferings of material life one after another. Therefore, material life is said to be dukkhaliyam asasvatam. It is a reservoir of miserable conditions. Okay, well, that's the truth. Now, if we have other expectations that are contrary to what uh, this is saying, we're going to suffer unnecessarily. Okay, so it says here, let's read this, the full statement. It says, as the embodied soul continually passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, and the soul similarly passes into another body at death, the self realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. We are not the body, we are spiritual beings trapped in the body. Our real interest lies in understanding this simple fact. Then we can make further spiritual progress. Otherwise, if we remain in the bodily conception of life, our miserable material existence will continue forever. Political adjustments, social welfare work, medical assistance, and the other programs we have manufactured for peace and happiness will never endure. Yeah, there'd be a beginning, a middle, and an end to all these things. We shall have to undergo the sufferings of material life one after another, birth after birth. Therefore, material life is said to be dukkhaliyam asusvita. It is a reservoir of miserable conditions. So the best thing is to surrender to Krishna completely and live a Krishna conscious life, always depending on the mercy of Krishna and following strictly the regulative principles and not being disturbed by ups and downs of the material world. These are the type of, these are the type of things that children have to learn. And these are the type of things that adults should learn also. Everybody has this false concept that, everything's going to be all right. Mm. You know, no, not everything's going to be all right. And all right means, we will always satisfy our sense gratification. No, you cannot expect such a thing because sense gratification is already what you would call uh, sinful. So how can everything be all right if we engage in sinful activities? It's not possible. So we have to learn to be Krishna conscious. That solves all our problems. And we will develop the correct understanding that yes, there are going to be sometimes ups and downs, sickness, accidents, whatever, but everything is under the control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nothing is happening haphazardly. So, in order to become free of these haphazard, so-called haphazard, bad karma, we should give up all bad karma activities and live a strict Krishna conscious life, regulated life, not a life that's haphazard, going to sleep late, waking up late, things like that. You have to be regulated and always chanting, dancing, uh, hearing lectures, and engaged in devotional service. That's the only protection we have because Krishna says that he will protect his devotees. So that means that we have to become a devotee and a good devotee. Otherwise, we're going to have a haphazard life and we'll be confused and ultimately we'll blame all the bad things that happen to Krishna. It's his fault. It's not my fault. Text number 4. When seeds are sown in the ground, they sometimes grow into plants and sometimes do not. Sometimes the ground is not fertile and the sowing of seeds is unproductive. Similarly, sometimes a prospective father, being impelled by the potency of the Supreme Lord, can beget a child, but sometimes conception does not take place. Therefore, one should not lament over the artificial relationship of parenthood, which is ultimately controlled by the Supreme Lord. Whoa, that is a very hard principle to understand for most people. So let's read that again. When seeds are sown in the ground, they sometimes grow into plants and sometimes do not. Sometimes the ground is not fertile and the sowing of seeds is unproductive. Similarly, sometimes a prospective father, being impelled by the potency of the Supreme Lord, can beget a child, but sometimes conception does not take place. Therefore, one should not lament over the artificial relationship of parenthood. I like that, artificial relationship of parenthood, which is ultimately controlled by the Supreme Lord. There it is, the gospel truth. Purport. Maharaj Chitraketu was actually not destined to get a son. Oh man, that's a hard statement. Maharaj Chitraketu was actually not destined to get a son. Therefore, although he married hundreds and thousands of wives, all of them proved barren, and he could not beget even one child. When Angira Rishi came to see the king requested the great sage to enable him to have at least one son. Because of the blessing of Angira Rishi, a child was sent by the grace of Maya. Oh my God, this is bad. That means that the son was going to die. But the child was not to live for long. Therefore, in the beginning, Angira Rishi told the king that he would beget a son who would cause jubilation and lamentation. That's the truth. King Chitraketu, was not destined to get a child by providence. Okay, providence, basically providence, there's different ways of understanding the word, but devotees understand the word providence as the will of the Lord. And the karmis, they use, why don't you look up the definition of providence? Devotees understand the word providence as the will of the Lord. Let's see what the karmis say.
Providence generally means divine guidance or care, the protective or sustaining power of God or higher power. So they trusted in providence to guide their journey. That's one thing. There's the foresight or prudent management of resources, the ability to plan for the future with wisdom and care. Example, through her providence, the family was well prepared for hard times. And then finally, the capitalized providence, sometimes used as another name for God,
Yeah,
especially in religious and philosophical contexts.
yeah, exactly. That first definition was correct, completely correct. And then the last thing you said was also correct.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. In other words, it's the will of the Lord. Providence is the will of the Lord. Okay, so I think we'll stop right there.
Mm-hmm.
Text number 4, and start on text number 4 tomorrow. Are there any questions or comments? Are there any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj.
Haribol Prabhu.
Yeah, I have a friend who lives in Snoqualmie. His father recently passed away, and he developed so much hatred to God now. So he doesn't. I invite him to temple for many programs. Doesn't respond. Doesn't reply. So he just now lost.
Well, he doesn't talk to you anymore.
He. If I call, he picks up the call, but otherwise, if I message him, he doesn't even reply. So basically, he's trying to avoid any spiritual or devotional conversation.
Right. He's mad at God.
Yeah, he saw his father struggled with anemia, and then he passed away
Struggled from what?
from I think anemia, the pneumonia.
Pneumonia, yeah.
Yeah, and then he was besides him, he was struggling. He saw him, and he was thinking that my father. He used to visit all the Punya Kshetras. He used to travel, visit so many uh, devotional places, and still he struggled so much and passed away. So then now he doesn't believe in God anymore.
Well, wait a minute. That means he doesn't respect his father.
Yes, 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 good, Maharaj. So right now he cannot see that deep.
Yeah.
Yeah, right now he cannot ask himself a question like if his father was, I mean, his father also passed away, right?
Right.
Did his father ever discontinue? So he cannot get this intelligence. With in the anger, he has forgotten all these important questions to ask. And I am being told not to, engage. Uh,
Any
don't, yeah,
discussions?
just give him time.
Well, he's very angry, let's put it, with Krishna.
Yeah, yeah. They used to worship Sai Baba, never Krishna before.
Oh, that's why. Well, yeah, he should be angry at Sai Baba.
Yeah, this today's I think that
What's that?
Chitraketu story is we can see the living examples here.
Yeah. So his father was a follower of Sai Baba also?
Yeah, they worship Sai Baba and they also go to several places, Punya Kshetras, what we call the pilgrimages. They travel a lot on pilgrimages.
Oh, pilgrimages.
Yeah, I,
Anyway,
I I was
yeah.
able to bring them once to the Mangalarti when they were here, when
Okay.
his father was here.
Okay.
And I was advocating 6 months before this event. I've been telling to, take advantage.
All right. Like 6 months before he died,
Yes, yes, Guru
we
Maharaj.
trying to preach to him,
Yeah.
but he didn't listen to you or what?
The father, they don't come regularly, so that's the son doesn't come regularly to the temple, and they are into Sai Baba. So they only because of me persuading, they were able to come once to the temple. That's it.
Well, wait a minute. They should get angry at Sai Baba because the father died and they were worshiping Sai Baba.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes, unfortunately.
So they didn't get the son didn't get angry at Satya Sai.
Yeah, I think he's getting, he's not worshipping. His family is trying to do best, but he doesn't even go close to the worship anymore.
Right. All right. Well, that's good because now he can't blame God. He can blame Sai Baba, but not God.
Yeah, very unfortunate, Guru Maharaj. I hope he'll come back to the right track this time.
Well, the only thing you can do in a situation like that is to give him prashadam. And
Yes.
don't say it's prashadam.
Yeah, yeah.
You should say, oh, my wife cooked some very nice brinjal. And, give him all kinds of prashadam. But, it's, oh, my wife cooked this, and I wanted to give this to you.
Yes, yes, Guru Maharaj. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I will-
You can invite him at the house also to come have dinner with you.
Yes, yes, Guru Maharaj.
Yeah. The more prashadam you give him, the more possibility there is that he could give up his anger and want to understand what the truth is. Okay, well, the truth is that we should always accept the mercy of the Lord. He is the supreme personality of Godhead, Krishna. So whatever happens, it happens under the control of the Lord. Nothing happens accidentally. So therefore we should accept whatever happens as the mercy of the Lord, whether it's good or bad. But ultimately, everything is bad in the material world. Everything. Therefore, we should strictly follow Krishna conscious philosophy and uh, lifestyle. Then Krishna promises to protect his devotee. That's the best protection you could ever have. And he promises to protect his devotee. Konteya pratijanihi nami bhakta pranasiti. Therefore, we should simply follow Krishna consciousness with full love and devotion and not be disturbed by anything. Okay, we'll stop right there. Start from text 4 tomorrow. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna
Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Yeah, somebody dies and everybody blames Krishna.
Think. Baba, blah, blah.
Huh?
Babas, they fuel more of the material desires. Or at least the followers of Babas. And then they use religion like karma kanda basically. Most of
You mean Satya Sai Bravo?
them. Blah blah.
So many people following. Crazy.
It's more of a
And there's
reflection.
two. There's two 2 or 3 Babas, not just one. It's, anyway, India is an amazing place. They they always come up with all kinds of speculations.
I mean, it's a reflection of our internal desires, right? Because
Yeah,
people want to achieve something,
yeah,
and then some people take the path of working hard, some people take the path of praying, but because none of them actually give the true knowledge, so they're stuck
yeah.
at that stage of consciousness, but then they use different ways to achieve their desire.
Well, some people are really, really connected to Sai Baba. They
Mhm.
really,
Yeah, because there are miracles that they almost all of them experience, or
something.
some experience, or means like at least they visualize, maybe, I don't know, but they feel certain miracles in their life.
Yeah.
Sometimes things like water droplets, honey, those kind. Yeah, we don't know what's the truth behind it, but
Okay, well, we'll just stick with Prabhupada.